Today we're back with another Office OEM gaming PC conversion project, and this time we kept it under 300 bucks. This build may look familiar to you if you've watched my Black Panther themed build, and I'll admit, on the outside we simply swapped out the theme on this one. However, inside today's build we not only have better performance, but we had to use a little trick that I've never done before. Let's check all of this out after a quick word from today's sponsor. Shout out to Corsair for not just sending over their new 2000D RGB ITX case, but for also sponsoring today's video. We recently got to play with this super unique case design in our RX 7600 testing video, which is pretty crazy considering you wouldn't typically use an ITX case to benchmark GPUs. However, despite being a small form factor, this case has fantastic airflow with the 3 included AF120 RGB slim fans, the mesh on every single side, and there's tons of room for other cooling components as well. GPUs including the RTX 40 series fit in here no problem, and since it's on the Corsair iQ software, you of course have complete control of the aesthetics of this case. Check out the Corsair 2000D for yourself by hitting that first link down in the description. Starting with the bread and butter of any of these projects, here we have the Dell Inspiron 3670, and shout out to Nemes in the Discord server for the heads up on this deal per usual. This is now my second time using this exact model, and honestly this is the OEM that I recommend these days for these kind of projects. Not only do these have Intel 8th gen CPUs, which are still very fast for gaming these days, but these are also very fun to paint and super easy. It's simple because you just remove the side panel and the front panel, and there's nothing extra to tape off or paint around. You can just paint both of these parts all the same color and it looks great. There is this Dell logo up here at the front, but this is where I've been placing a sticker or decal to hide that away. Once it's all painted, I just think this looks super clean and it was very easy to do, and you could even sell a build like this if you were into ultra budget flips. Now what made this specific deal so good though is the specs that were inside. As most of you know, when you're buying an old OEM office computer like this, there's always a huge mix of what the hardware can be. The most important things to look out for whenever you're hunting for your OEM base for these conversion projects is the CPU model, the amount of RAM it comes with, and the storage situation. For our CPU, it came included with an Intel i5-8400, and this was actually a super popular gaming chip just a few short years ago. The 8400 can definitely still hang with some decently powerful graphics cards, and of course we put one in our build today, but we'll talk about that in just a bit. Our deal also included 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, and that's all you honestly need for these types of projects. I don't personally ever recommend buying these OEMs when they only have 8 gigabytes or sometimes no RAM at all, because that'll instantly jump up your total cost of the project by 30 to 50 bucks. The DDR4 that's in here isn't super fast or anything, but it doesn't really matter too much with an Intel i5 chip, so it's perfectly fine. And finally, for storage, the unit did come with a 256 gigabyte SSD, and I'll definitely keep it in there for some extra storage, but we'll want to upgrade that for a bit more space for our game library. All of that costs just $125 on eBay, and this is slightly towards the lower end for this type of hardware, but with some patience, you'll be able to snipe a similar deal, but it could take some time. If you are trying to do just that, I would recommend using this specific search term on eBay, Dell Inspiron 3670 i5-8400 16 gigabytes. That will filter down exactly what you're looking for, and I'll have a link for this down in the description that you can bookmark and just make it super simple. But once you do finally snag a good deal, you'll obviously have to upgrade it just a bit if you want to do some quality 1080p gaming, and the first thing that I added was just a little boost to the storage department. Now, these newer OEM motherboards do actually have an M.2 slot, so I'll definitely recommend just going with an NVMe drive if you're copying this at home, but here in the studio, I already had this Team Group Vulcan Z 480 gigabyte 2.5 inch SSD, and I've been dying to get rid of it. I paid $24 for this several months ago, but honestly, that's about the exact same price that you pay for an NVMe model these days, so again, just go with that. I'm simply using what I already had in inventory. Now, what I definitely didn't have in inventory was this fancy power adapter, and honestly, I didn't even know these things existed until Sam let me know that we're gonna need one. This here is a super unique SATA power to double SATA power adapter, and it's actually specifically for Dell Inspirons. This connector into the motherboard isn't what you typically see on a gaming motherboard. Sam found this on eBay, and the reason why we needed this is because the power supply didn't have any 6-pin power connector at all for the GPU, so we were already gonna have to use a SATA to 6-pin adapter, but the power supply also included only one single SATA power connector, which we needed for the 2.5 inch SSD. I'm not sure if this type of connector to the motherboard is proprietary or not, but I've personally never seen it, and this eBay listing even named the specific Dell Inspiron that we're using, so I guess we're good to go. You'll see soon in the benchmarking section that we had no problem getting some great 1080p gaming results, and we didn't have any issues, but again, per usual, just use power adapters at your own risk. You can completely avoid this adapter situation if you just do two different things than what I did. First, First, just get an NVMe SSD, and second, use a graphics card that doesn't require any external power. Some great GPU options for a project like this are the RX 6400 if you're looking for something brand new, and the GTX 1650 is great if you can find a used deal. However, in my last Dell Inspiron project, we used the 1650 like I recommended, so for today's video, I wanted to squeeze out a little more performance this time around. This here is an HP OEM GTX 1650 Super, and as far as I'm aware, there are no 1650 Supers that don't require any external power connector. They all have 6 pins like this one. The difference in FPS that we'll get going with a 1650 Super over a 1650 is pretty solid, but again, if you're just trying to follow this along and keep things super easy, go with an NVMe SSD and get a 1650 that doesn't require any external power connector. All in all though, here's what our final parts list is looking like, and as you can see, I paid exactly $280 for this project. That weird SATA adapter did set me back 16 bucks, and I also didn't include the stickers because I figured there's probably no one that's actually gonna buy the exact ones that I did. Let me know if you even know who Illidan is down in the comment section, by the way.
Nerd alert!
And yeah, if you do go down that easier path of upgrade parts that I just mentioned, that'll save you some money on both the adapter and GPU department, so you can get this much closer to $250 if you're on a tighter budget. But now let's see what this ultra budget gaming PC is capable of, and we'll run some benchmarks. Starting with Diablo 4, since this is still the new hit game in my personal current addiction, here we put the settings at 1080p and medium, and we got a very solid 114 average FPS. Diablo 4 obviously isn't super tough to run, and speaking of which, you should check out my ultra budget Diablo 4 themed gaming PC video up in the top right hand corner if you haven't already. We also have an aesthetics clan in the game. Feel free to join us over there if you don't have a home yet. I actually haven't been able to put nearly as much time into the game as I want to. I'm only up to like level 35 or so on my barbarian, but I have been loving the game so far, and I'm going to continue to play it. I'll definitely be down to play with some of you guys, so again, look up the aesthetics clan to join us. Moving on though, next up we fired up Fortnite, and we put the settings at 1080p Pro just like normal, and we got an FPS average of 159. So yeah, you definitely could still enjoy this budget gaming PC with a higher refresh rate monitor if you wanted to. After that, we tested Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and with 1080p and basic settings, we got 90 FPS. And for the last game that we have footage for, Sam hopefully landed some headshots in Apex Legends with his new $7,000 Logitech gaming mouse, and he got an FPS average of 141 using 1080p and medium settings. And just so you have a consistent benchmark across all of our builds, we of course ran some 3D Mark time spy action, and we got a score of 4,724. Here you can see that our 1650 Super only ever got up to around 67 degrees while blasted at 100% utilization, so we didn't have any issues cooling inside this build in case you were wondering. And for some quick benchmarks, here are the rest of the games that we tested. For the most part, this PC can pretty much handle any title at around 60, 70, or even up to 100 FPS using a combination of 1080p low to medium settings. Not bad for a little $280 build. And just as a heads up, we will be selling this build on our July 1st monthly drop on zttbuilds.com. We'll have this one posted for 175 bucks, but it'll obviously sell out instantly, so you have to be quick. And if you don't feel like waiting, or you don't think you'll get lucky with that one, we do always have our restock builds available, which are literally available every single day of the week. I'll have zttbuilds.com link down in the description for you. And if you are interested in spending just a few bucks more on your own custom gaming PC build, then feel free to check out the video that's on the screen now.